Let's be totally honest for a second here. How many absolutely brilliant ideas do you have just sitting there in your Notes app right now, waiting for the so-called right time? You know exactly what I mean. Welcome to today's Explainer. If you're a driven learner looking to finally get out of your own way, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're diving into one of the most universal yet completely silent obstacles to success, the illusion of the perfect time. We're going to dismantle that illusion piece by piece using some seriously fascinating behavioral psychology.
So, here's our game plan for today. We'll cover the perfect time illusion, fear disguised as preparation, the hidden costs of waiting, why action beats perfection, and finally, how to start moving forward. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The perfect time illusion.
Ask yourself right now, are you delaying action while waiting for the perfect opportunity? Are you putting your life, your business, or your big goals on pause until you get that elusive green light? You know, waiting until your schedule completely clears up, or the economy shifts, or you finally feel 100% ready to go?
Well, Todd Bumgardner really hits the nail on the head here. There is no perfect time. There never has been. There never will be. Waiting for everything in your life to perfectly align, that is just a defensive story we tell ourselves. We kind of trick our brains into thinking we're just being highly strategic, but really, we're just guarding our egos against the discomfort of starting something new and, potentially failing. Which brings us right to Section 2, fear disguised as preparation.
Here is the core trap keeping you stuck: analysis paralysis. That's overanalyzing or overthinking a situation to the point where no solution or course of action is decided upon within a natural time frame. The act of thinking itself actually becomes a roadblock. We gather endless data, we read 10 more books, we map out literally every hypothetical scenario, and convince ourselves we're just doing research. But honestly, it's a psychological struggle preventing any real forward motion.
It comes down to perfectionism versus excellence. Perfectionism is fear-driven, hesitant, overly self-critical, and demands absolute certainty. Excellence, though? That is growth-driven, resilient, effort-focused, and it fully embraces messy action. Perfectionism isn't about being great. It's a fear-based trap demanding impossible guarantees before you even take a step. True excellence requires taking risks and realizing that confidence is built through action, not before it.
And if you think perfectionism is just some quirky, harmless personality trait, the data says otherwise. Self-critical perfectionism is actually a key predictor of academic and professional procrastination. Studies show that when people hold themselves to impossibly high standards, they just freeze. They completely avoid the task because deep down, they're absolutely terrified of failing.
Moving on to Section 3, the hidden costs of waiting.
Think staying on the sidelines is safe? Let's look at this classic scenario from behavioral economists Kahneman and Tversky. Mr. Paul chose inaction, stayed with his stock, and lost $1,200. Mr. George chose action, switched his stock, and also lost $1,200. They both lose the exact same amount. But when people are asked who feels more regret, an overwhelming 90% say Mr. George. Why? Because we have this massive regret premium on action. Our brains literally punish us way more for trying and failing than for just sitting there and failing. Crazy, right?
And this totally distorts our perception of risk, driven by regret theory and availability bias. For example, right after the 2001 terrorist attacks, flying felt incredibly dangerous, so people chose to drive long distances instead. But statistically, driving was way more dangerous. We irrationally cling to the status quo just to avoid feeling future regret, completely ignoring the actual reality of the risks involved. You can actually see this in the famous jam study. Check out these numbers. When shoppers had an extensive selection of 24 jams, 60% stopped to look, but a measly 3% actually bought anything. But when the options were limited to just 6 jams, only 40% stopped, but sales absolutely skyrocketed to 30%. Having too many options or waiting to make the quote-unquote perfect choice literally paralyzes our ability to decide. So what are the hidden costs of waiting? Missed opportunities, impaired productivity, increased stress and anxiety, severe decision fatigue, and stunted personal growth. Waiting is definitely not free. Avoiding decisions doesn't protect you. It actively drains your mental energy and harms your future.
Let's jump into Section 4, why action beats perfection.
Here's a brilliant concept from Nobel laureate Herbert Simon: satisficing. That's accepting a good enough solution that meets predetermined criteria rather than searching indefinitely for the absolute optimal choice. This isn't settling, and it's definitely not being lazy. It is a highly adaptive strategy. You accept a solution that checks your core boxes and you move forward, instead of hunting for some flawless unicorn that just doesn't exist.
It sets up this wild psychological paradox. Maximizers seek the absolute best and engage in exhaustive comparison, but they actually report lower life satisfaction and way higher regret. Satisficers, on the other hand, accept good enough, stop searching when their criteria are met, and report higher happiness and optimism. Maximizers might occasionally get slightly better objective results, but satisficers are demonstrably happier and just get a whole lot more done.
As Voltaire famously said centuries ago, the best is the enemy of the good. Chasing absolute flawlessness will completely destroy your actual tangible progress. If you only accept perfection, you're literally never going to implement anything.
All right, Section 5, How to Start Moving Forward. So why must you start before you're ready? Well, it fosters humility by acknowledging you don't know it all. It forces you out of comfortable routines. It makes you embrace imperfection as a stepping stone. And it provides the actual environment needed to learn and grow. Think about it. You literally cannot steer a parked car. Taking messy, imperfect action is the only way to build momentum.
If you're stuck overthinking right now, try this 5-step cognitive behavioral method. 1. Define the problem. 2. Generate alternatives. 3. Evaluate pros and cons. 4. Choose a solution. And 5. Implement and evaluate. It's just a rigid, structured framework to cut right through all that emotional noise and get you straight into execution mode.
Now this is a real game changer, the 80% rule. Make decisions when you have roughly 80% of the information you think you need. Seriously. Holding out for that final 20% of certainty takes way too much time. And honestly, it rarely changes the outcome anyway. Take action when you're mostly sure.
I absolutely love this reminder from Mother Teresa. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. We have only today. Let us begin. The present moment, as chaotic and imperfect as it is literally the only tool we have to build our lives. Because here's the absolute truth. The perfect time never arrives. The moment you start is the moment your future begins. So what is the one imperfect action you're going to take the second this explainer ends? Stop waiting and start building. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.